All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started now. I want to welcome everybody to our May lunch bunch. It's great to see you all today. It's a absolutely great number of people that are on this call. It's great seeing new faces. Hard to believe that we've come to the close of another academic year and had commencement ceremonies last week where we welcomed nearly 1,400 graduates, both are all master's, PhD, or undergraduate, 1,400 into our ranks as alumni. And glad to have them and welcome them to our Auditor family. We're gearing up for our summer programs, including our Golden Golf Tournament, which will be June 8th in Arvada at Westwoods Golf Club. We have welcome parties that'll be coming up. Mine's at 150 roadshow events across the country. So there's a lot going on. Really looking forward. We got a rapid soccer night in June. If you like professional soccer or haven't gone, it might be a great time to give it a try. But stay tuned to our events calendar. It always seems to change. And hope to see you at an upcoming event. For those who don't know me, I'm Andy Flynn, class of 86 and 98, Director of Alumni Engagement here at Mines. If this is your first lunch bunch, welcome. And for those of you who are regular attendees, thank you for your continued interest and support, and welcome back. We are glad to have you with us today as we continue our monthly look at the people and programs that make Mines great. Today, we shine the spotlight on our Space Resources program, our Aerospace program, and our Alumni Aerospace Interest Group. The leaders of these three areas are with us today: Dr. Angel Abud Madrid, Dr. Christy Savina, and alum Dan Papora. Each will share their insights and updates on their program, as well as ways you can stay connected and informed about opportunities to engage with alumni, students, and industry professionals. Before we start, a few quick reminders. Any questions that you submitted with your RSVP have been shared with our speaker. And if you think of a question during the program, please feel free to use the chat function. We'll keep an eye on that and share it with our speakers. If you run out of time and don't get your question answered, we'll circle back with you after the program. All of our Lunch Bunch programs are recorded and can be accessed on the Lunch Bunch page of the alumni website at weare.mines.edu. So if you missed one, want to listen again, or would like to share the program with a friend, visit the page to see the complete archive of recordings going back to 2021 when we started doing Lunch Bunch in a virtual format. As always, if you have ideas for future speakers or topics we want to know about them, please contact me, Ruth, or anyone in the alumni office with your suggestions. With that, please welcome me and please join me in welcoming Dr. Abud Madrid, who will kick off the program.
Thank you so much, Andy. Really appreciate it. It's great to be with all of you, the Lunch Bunch. I hope you're having a hearty lunch, because we're going to launch you into space in just a moment, so that you get to we get to answer a question that all of you may be having for quite some time, and that is, what's up in aerospace at Mines? You may be hearing of all the things that are being going on, an announcement to alumni, and so this is your opportunity to know what is happening at the School of Mines in this field. Now, all of you are aware that for almost 150 years, the School of Mines is world recognized for its broad expertise in resource exploration, extraction, production, and utilization. And that was the original intent of the school. In the last few decades, it has been about these topics of earth, energy, and environment. But as any forward-looking university, School of Mines is always looking for what's the next step. And a few years ago, I started asking, well, how far can we go? Is there a way that we can apply all this expertise that we have and start looking at how can Mines get involved beyond Earth? And that's what we're going to be talking today. You will be surprised to know that the the experience of mines in space goes back to even to the dawn of the space age. A year after NASA was founded, John Reinhardt from the Mining Research Laboratory put together one of the most realistic lunar bases that you could find at that time. He used some of the lunar soil to make the construction or the ideas behind it. And these are some of the ideas that are actually being resurrected these days. In 1962, Mines was one of just 2 universities that was present at a large meeting of NASA when they were looking at how to provide resources for the Apollo program. And this activity continued through the years, off and on. Some faculty got involved during the 60s and 70s during the Apollo program, analyzing some of the lunar rocks that you can actually get to see at what used to be the Geology Museum, which is now the Mines Museum of Earth Science. You can go down there and take a look at an Apollo 15 rock and learn all about that rock that was heavily studied during those years. But it was not until the late 1990s that Mines, in terms of research, got formally connected with NASA. NASA created the Center for Commercial Applications of Combustion in Space due to the expertise of the school in high temperature phenomena, combustion materials. And it was at that time that we started training some of the students, and some faculty got involved on how to develop space flight hardware. We even subjected some of our students to parabolic flights in which they experienced low gravity for 30 seconds and conducted their experiments. And they had their usual throwing up, but it was part of the fun that everybody had there. That led to the first experiment that Mines had in space. It was called the MIST experiment, looking at how to put out fires in space with very fine water mist. And again, students and faculty that got involved got to go to the launch. And not only that, they actually got to participate for 16 days in Houston on the controlling their experiment. The results of that experiment were quite encouraging. And NASA came back 10 years later to Mines and said, we want you to test and design extinguishers that we want to put on the space station because we want to extend the life of the station. And so students and faculty got together, tested the equipment. This is actually what's happening in Alderson Hall. And with that, NASA accepted these extinguishers, and they were launched in 4 different flights on board Orbital ATK and on board SpaceX. And 9 units were sent and received by the astronauts in the space station. And those are the units that now are safeguarding the lives of the astronauts until the end of the space station. So every time you see the space station fly at night, think about that Mines students and Mines faculty work. It's out there protecting the crew. That was great in terms of getting students involved, graduate students. But we started sensing that undergrad students were actually interested on the topic of aerospace. So we decided to try to monitor and try to sense the interest from students. And so in 2007, we conducted the first class exclusively dedicated to space, Introduction to Space Exploration. We thought we were going to get just a handful. We got probably 90 students from all departments that were quite interested. And typically, as Mines students do at the end of the class, they went to the instructor and say, well, what's next? And boy, Houston, we have a problem because they all wanted to know more, be more active in aerospace, and we had to start being creative. And so one thing we did, if we continue this class that has been going on for 15 years, this is the class of 2021, we have almost 100 students, again, from all departments, still quite involved. But they say we want more. So what we did in 2009 was to create an area of special interest called the Space and Planetary Science and Engineering Area of Special Interest, in which students can take up to 12 credit in space-related classes. And with that, they get exposed a little bit more into this field. But students kept asking for more. And so we gave it another thought. And by 2021, in the fall, several programs were created, one being the Aerospace Engineering Minor, that Christy Sabina is going to go into all the details of that great opportunity for students to get involved in aerospace. Computer science was also quite interested because of the high demand of students for space. And so they have the computer science plus space track. And even mining engineering has now a space mining minor. But the students kept asking for more. And so at that point, we told them, look, if you are so interested, you got to do something yourselves, and not all all for us faculty. So they went on their own and created their own student clubs, starting with the CSM Space Society that became the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics chapter, and they're quite active there. For those that like to look at the stars and solar eclipse, they created the Astronomy Club, and those that are more hands-on went on to create the Rocket Club, launching all sorts of rockets from small to large ones. And then we even have students that are organizing other students on campus on competitions. This is like the Space Robotics Challenge, in which now they're getting involved also high schoolers and community colleges in activities conducted purely by students at Mines. But they kept asking more from us, give us more to do. So that led to student projects that went from just designing airplanes on competitions, launching balloons up to 100,000 feet to look at the effects of the high altitude environment, launching all sorts of rockets in competitions, and even designing lunar mining equipment. So they got involved in all these student projects. And so at that point, we started becoming more connected with different organizations in space in Colorado, the Colorado Space Coalition, the Colorado Space Business Roundtable. And the reason we did that is because you may not know, but Colorado is the second largest aerospace economy in the nation. It's the first one in per capita number of private aerospace workers. There are more than 400 companies. And so what was happening is that not only was interest from the students, but also industry was quite interested. And it only takes to go to one of the career fairs to actually verify that this is the case. If you go to the career fair, there can be booths for all sorts of companies. There's Shell and mining companies, but the longest lines are always in aerospace companies. This is just one of them. A line that goes all the way from the entrance, all the way down to down the hall for just one company, Lockheed Martin. All of these students bypassing all sorts of other companies just to get 1 minute with a company and be able to make a case to get an internship and a job. And so we were seeing that this was becoming increased interest. So we started monitoring what was happening. And so we took a look in 2016 at the number of students that were graduating that were going to the aerospace industry. And so here's the number of students in all different fields. And you can see there's a lot of them in oil and gas, consulting and construction, manufacturing. But sticking out like a sore thumb was aerospace at a time when there was only barely a class on this, but students were being hired. We came back in 2018. And by then, aerospace was almost second place, almost as big as IT and high tech. At that point, this was noticed by the administration, especially by President Paul Johnson, that was just coming in, and he said, we have to do something about this. And so he created the Alumni Interest Group, in which in the board, there were all sorts of companies, large companies from aerospace. And Dan Porpora is going to talk to us about the involvement of industry in the area of aerospace and how that has boosted the numbers of students that are being hired by aerospace, to the point that, and fasten your seatbelt for all of you that are not aware of this, all of you alumni, in 2022, just last year, the industry that hired the most number of undergraduates at Mines was aerospace, with a 17%. And that's just undergrads. For Mines masters, the largest number is 27% in aerospace. So Mines has become extremely involved in aerospace, and that is a great news for those that are interested in this space. So there's going to be more talk about this from Christy and Dan, but I'm going to concentrate now on how Mines has addressed a graduate program in a very unique area related to space. A few years ago, we started noticing that since we have this broad expertise in resource exploration, extraction, production, and utilization, we started asking ourselves, is there a way that we can export this expertise and do that in space? How about identifying those resources that one can collect, that one can extract and utilize beyond our planet? And we started looking about what could be those resources, and we found out that the first resource that was utilized in space, and the only one that has been utilized so far, is just the location. Being able to look at the Earth from above has given us weather forecasting, global communications. We can pinpoint every location of the Earth with extreme accuracy. And this is not just the only space resource, it's the only commercial use of space, but it's a pretty large one. It's about $469 billion a year. And there has been several studies that have projected the growth of the industry into the trillions in 30 years. And so for that, you're going to have to go beyond just looking at location. So what else is useful out there? Well, the moment that you cross the atmosphere, you're going to find an environment that is quite unique and is hard to replicate on Earth. You have ultra-high vacuum and low gravity that can be done in space stations, where you can create products with much higher quality than one that can be found when distorted by gravity on Earth. You have solar energy that is pretty much inexhaustible. These are the so-called intangible resources. If you want to go for more concrete ones, then you have to go to the moon, you have to go to the asteroids, you got to go to Mars, where you can find all sorts of resources from minerals, from metals, water, oxygen, the soil, volatile ices, even gases in the atmosphere of Mars. There's even human-made resources in space, and that's all the trash that we have sent for 60 years. Why not recycle it? We already spent a lot of money doing this, and we can utilize this for all sorts of purposes. And we started seeing that, yes, it will be important in the future if we can bring some of the resources back to Earth, but still, we have plenty of those here on Earth. The most important thing to understand about space resources is that we can use them to be utilized in space. So we don't have to waste all this energy and all this money in order to send rockets into space if we can actually get it from there. So we can obtain our bricks and mortar and water and oxygen from where we're going and not from space, from Earth. So this is the concept that's called living off the land. And so that's why 20 years ago, we created the Center for Space Resources that has been going strong for 20 years, which was the very first university research program focused on this area. At that time, there was only a few people from NASA and a few academics that were interested on this topic. But lately, in the last 10 years or so, this field has exploded in interest. Just in the United States, it's not just NASA that is interested. Now you got the United States Geological Survey that's trying to use its expertise on identifying resources in space. You got the Department of Commerce that is seeing now this an opportunity for commercial activities in space. You got the Department of Energy that is looking at how to create energy sources, nuclear, solar, for space. Even the Space Force is thinking, how are we going to protect our assets in space? And now it's getting involved in the field. And it's not just the United States. Yes, NASA started with this, but now you have all sorts of countries from Russia and China and South Korea and Japan and India, all of them interested in the field of space resources. And it's not just government, aerospace companies, some of the large corporations, the traditional ones, the new space, are getting interested on how to refuel in space with resources obtained from there. So this is going from what in the 60s was the race between the Soviet Union and the United States to a race for the moon from the private sector, for all sorts of countries wanted to get involved. And it's not just the large aerospace companies, it's the dozens and dozens of companies that are injected in what we call the space resources value chain. What companies are going to be doing the prospecting and the collection and the drilling and the extraction and all the infrastructure that will be needed? We need power, we need transportation and communications. So you have all sorts of companies. Some of them are that have never been actually involved in space. Now they're doing that. So knowing all this interest from the government, from the private sector, we decided that the School of Mines had to do something about educating those professionals in this new field. And that is why we decided to create the very first program in the world, educating scientists, engineers, economists, entrepreneurs, and policymakers in the field of space resources. And from the very beginning, we decided to offer different degrees, starting in fall 2017, certificates, Masters of Science, and PhDs. And given this is a multidisciplinary effort, we involved all departments of the school. We got involved with space agencies, with companies, and knowing that the interest was worldwide, we decided to do this from the very beginning as a fully online program, which means that we created our first course, but then all of them are conducted online. You can look at them from the comfort of your home. We also have Zoom meetings like this when we discuss things with students. This was the very first fully online program at Mines, certified by the Higher Learning Commission in 2018. And that's the way that we've been conducting our courses, which has resulted on currently having a program that has 132 students from 5 continents, from 22 countries that come from a variety of professions and with all sorts of backgrounds from engineering, science, mining, oil and gas, computer science. We got members of the military, we got entrepreneurs. And if you want to learn more about this, you can go to the coolest website at Mines, which is space.mines.edu. So what we had done with this program is taking that expertise that the Mines has had for 150 years on terrestrial resources and have exported it and we're doing that now in space. So that gives you an idea of what we're doing at the graduate level and an idea of what's been happening in aerospace. So I'm going to switch now to Christy, that is going to go in detail in how she's getting excited students from the very moment they step into Mines during their undergrad years. So let me stop sharing and let Christy take it from here.
Unmute, Kirsty.
Thank you, Andy. So my name is Christy Savina. I'm faculty here in mechanical engineering. I'm also the director of undergraduate studies. I'm going to talk a bit about how we have aerospace in mechanical engineering, and that is very much contributed to Angel and him really helping us think about this area of interest for our students and where they're going in industry. So that has been helpful for us as we looked in developing this program. But we developed this program, as Angel mentioned, in fall of 21, really with support of both industry and students. With industry, it started with discussions with Ball Aerospace, Lockheed Martin, and the alumni, aerospace, various alumni from aerospace, to think about what our graduates needed. We're not developing an aerospace engineering degree per se. We know that our students were being hired, but what we were told by Ball and Lockheed was that what our students needed was a platform that really gave them a leg up so that when they were interviewing, especially against their counterparts at other institutions where there are students getting degrees in aerospace engineering, that they can essentially talk the talk, that they have a bit of experience, they have some fundamental knowledge, and that would help build them up. You know, in terms of supporting our students, as Angel alluded to, we already have over 80 mechanical engineering students, both undergraduate and graduate, every year going into aerospace, defense, aviation industry. So they're already being hired. It's just that we can help them a little bit more in entering the workforce by supporting them with that. It also should be noted for mechanical engineering, 5 of our top 10 employers do come from the aerospace, defense, and aviation. So we are addressing both where our students want to go and hopefully helping industry provide that early education that at least helps them get hopefully launched a little bit better into their field. So one of the things I wanted to, much as Angel pointed out, is the fact that because aerospace is very much in the news, this is another thing driving us forward, is where is it that our students are going and how can we best support them? And the good thing is we have people coming to us, but we're also trying to look and say, well, where are the areas that we can best support our students? And one of them that is coming up is Boom Supersonic is really in our backyard here, along with other programs, but it's a place to have really generate some excitements with our students. But again, how can we support them? So what we did is, with Angel's help, we took his course, that Introduction to Space Exploration and Resources. And what he didn't mention, he had been running that so successfully at 1 credit hour, but really to support our students and course requirements, he expanded that to a 3 credit hour course. And he still has 60, 75 students joining him every year in this course. So that really becomes a good launching point, gets our students excited. And then they think about some of the other courses that we offer. So we developed an aerospace systems engineering, a space operations, and orbital mechanics course, specifically based on recommendations that were coming from industry, saying, here are the courses your students would benefit from having as they enter, especially with the undergraduate degree. I think one of the great things about this is that we have adjunct faculty who are helping to teach these courses. And so they are employees of Lockheed Martin, and actually both of them that are joining us to teach our systems, the space ops and the orbital mechanics are from Lockheed Martin. And it's such a valuable experience for our students to, get not only the course, but hear how the faculty who are teaching it are using this in their careers. And then we already had the aerodynamics, aerospace structures, and mechanics of composite courses. So what we did within mechanical engineering for our students, ME students, they can take a track. And a track is simply 4 courses that gain depth in they can take any of these 7 courses, take 4, and they get the check mark on their transcript that says they have a focus area in aerospace. But for students outside of ME, the minor might make more sense. Track is specifically for mechanical engineering students. A minor is 6 courses. Minors are just defined by the institution itself. But so opportunities not only for ME students, but those students outside of ME who are looking to really focus in on the aerospace. One of the other places that we're highly involved in trying to integrate more to support our students is looking at aerospace industry projects. And I'm going to highlight a few of them that just concluded here in our past academic year. And it really does help our students connect those, the practical skill sets, the courses they have, and then work with practicing engineers in industry, which has been great. Sierra Space joined us for the first time this year, and what we found, Sierra Nevada Corp had been working with us for 7 years with a project. The projects are now better launched out of Sierra Space, so they kind of pushed it over to their sister company. And Sierra Space joined us, and we had 2 projects that ran this year. That we had an inflatable habitat primary structure, and we had a team of 8 students who worked on creating that. And then they had a companion team that worked on the ground support equipment and an AR/VR environment that was intended for Sierra Space to use to hopefully in the future train astronauts on how to think about the module that will be set up in space. We had Lockheed Martin Space join us, and the student team did an extreme environment data collection framework. So they're looking very much at material testing, and supporting Lockheed Martin with their testing needs. We had Ball Aerospace join us. So we had a characterization of COTS isolator. So the students were working with a vibrations table in order to test various components that Ball Aerospace was interested in. We had Lunar Outposts. They've joined us for several years, and this team created the Lunar Rover ground support hardware. All these pictures, some of them, especially where you see the teams joining, we just had our showcase this past, just about 2 weeks ago now, where the students come together, they present to, we have industry judges come in or alumni judges as well. And then we can have the general public come in to see these students really give that elevator pitch of what they spent the last 9 months working on. We did have the Mines Aerospace Interest Group. They're provided projects for the past several years, and most of that has been around the autonomous lunar rover for the Artemis mission. So it's been great to have those alumni working with the students team, again, focused around aerospace. We do run several of the NASA challenges, one of them being the Big Idea Challenge. So that has been fun for our students. And if they are selected as one of the advancing teams, then they will go to NASA, depending where the competition is taking place, and compete in that challenge. We have the Over the Dusty Moon Challenge that is a collaboration between Lockheed Martin and Mines. So that's a global space resource design challenge. And I think on this one, and Angel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have both an undergraduate team and a graduate team working to find a solution and compete in this challenge that looks like it's being held every year now. This is the 2nd year for that. And then finally, Angel mentioned the various teams, but we support the AIAA Design Build Fly competition. So within Capstone, the team is supported monetarily and also with some club money to build a new small aircraft in order to meet the design challenge that's being posed that year. think that is my last, yeah, that's my last one that we have centered around aerospace. But certainly, if you are part of the aerospace community or know someone in it, we're always looking for projects. We have a link under our capstone.mines.edu to look for that, but it is really a great opportunity for our students to be connecting with engineers that are currently there and see what the opportunities are for them in future careers. And I think next up, I think Dan was going to present.
All right.
Unless someone has any questions.
There you go.
All right, I'll take it over from here. Thank you.
Great.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Papora. I do not have any slides, so that's the bad news. The good news is I'll be brief. I am the program manager at Ball Aerospace for civil space missions, astrophysics in particular. But more importantly, I am the lead for the Mines Aerospace Interest Group. I've been involved with that group since 2016, when it first came into being as the Mines Aerospace Council. I graduated from Mines 06, 07, physics, material science. So one of the earlier graduates in this ballooning population of Mines grads going into the aerospace industry. And, you know, it's as you've heard throughout these presentations, it's just a really exciting time to be a Mines grad and be in aerospace. And there's lots of opportunities to make connections, help the school, help the industry, and continue to build this growing population because we continue to need more people, and Mines produces some fantastic graduates and are really helpful in us getting some really hard engineering problems solved. So a little bit about the Aerospace Interest Group itself. It is part of a group of strategic interest groups centered around, obviously, the aerospace industry and maintaining that connection and improving that connection between the school and the huge Colorado industry, as well as the national industry at large. We work with potential students to Mines to help them realize that Mines is a fantastic place to go in order to get into the industry, if that's something they're interested in. We connect with current Mines students who may or may not know that they're interested in aerospace and kind of explain to them how it is a fantastic career opportunity, a great place to go into. And we also connect alumni with each other and with the school to provide opportunities to build community. So we're a small group of volunteers, about a half dozen or so of us. So we're a little limited on what we can do. We spend most of our energy on a handful of events to, again, bring people together. Our big yearly event is called Trajectories. Our next one will be this fall, late September. You should start seeing advertisements for it in alumni newsletters starting over the summer. So hopefully I'll see you all there. This is our big event where we have hundreds of students and alumni come together on campus, eat, drink, interact, and listen to a panel of esteemed panelists. In the past, we've had CEOs of space startups, we've had astronauts, we had Christine Darden, one of NASA's hidden figures. So we get some phenomenal speakers to come in and really inspire students and folks who, like us, like me, who've been around for a while. It's always great to get a little extra inspiration from these folks and just learn more about what's going on. Little peek behind the screen here. Our upcoming event is going to be launching into the future is the theme. So we'll be looking at stories behind some famous launches. Recent example, the James Webb Space Telescope. So we'll have some folks to talk about that. And again, should be a great event. Other things that we've done and we continue to work on, as has been mentioned, sponsoring capstone projects for the autonomous lunar rover. We attend Aerospace Day at the Capitol, where we talk with the general public and the legislature about Mines and how we're involved in the industry. We talk every year at the Engineering Week panel discussion that Lockheed Martin has on campus, where we talk with students or potential students who have been accepted to the school to talk about our experiences at Mines and how it's prepared us for the industry. We support Celebration at Mines, talk with freshmen and kind of put the bug in their ear that aerospace is something they should be thinking about. One of our members, Amanda Camarada, who is on the AIAA student leadership team, she's hosting a Pathfinders conference that we're supporting that's going to be working to bring in students from underserved high schools to show them the opportunities in the aerospace industry and how you don't even necessarily need a college degree in order to get in. And it's a great place to look. But yeah, there's so many ideas and so many things that we want to do, but really it just becomes limited because it's just a handful of us volunteers and it's how much time we can dedicate to it. So always looking for more help. As has already been mentioned, the weare.mines.edu is the place to go. You can find our page under the alumni section, and you can sign up for our mailing list. Or if you're interested in volunteering more regularly, helping us run some of these events, kick some more things off the ground, welcome more volunteers. So feel free to reach out to me. Angel and Andy know how to get a hold of me. And yeah, look forward to meeting folks in person this fall and getting support from anyone who's interested in volunteering. But that is all I have.
Great. Well, thank you, Angel, Christy, Dan. That's it was great. Very interesting. It's amazing what is going on here at Mines, both in space and aerospace. I'm always amazed, and I get a great opportunity to work with the interest group, and they're not just smart, they're a very interesting and fun group to work with. So I appreciate that. Having digested all that information, if you have any questions, you can either put them in the chat or please speak up and share your thoughts. Well, someone has to have a question.
I have a few comments, if you don't mind. This is Andrea Gallagher. I was a 1988 graduate in geological engineering and worked on a master's that I never quite finished. And my concentration was in remote sensing. And so, you know, there's some of us who have been sort of dealing with NASA and that part of the industry for many years. But I have found myself in the aerospace and defense industry from having done some software work, and then and was in the DC area for a while doing defense work, and have landed after a couple of hops in Seattle area, and I'm working sort of commercial aerospace. But I'm a consultant here with a kind of a systems engineering and project management title. And my current customer is actually Blue Origin. So I've seen a bunch of different parts of the industry. And for a girl from geological engineering to end up in running teams that are building hardware, it's kind of entertaining. And I think that speaks to the quality of a mines education, that you can, you know, you've got a good enough foundation to be adaptable. I guess my question would be, how do I get more engaged with the special interest group and maybe expand them beyond Denver or beyond Colorado? Is that, you know, do we have are there some initiatives that you'd like to get started? Certainly there's a lot of aerospace here in Washington State.
Yeah, that's fantastic. One, you completely agreed on the fact that we have so many people who come into the industry from such a wide variety of backgrounds, and that's one of the things that people don't realize when we talk about mines. they don't realize that aerospace is a thing here because they think geology, chemistry, whatever. But we need all those people in the aerospace industry. I sent you my email address that you can reach out to so we can get you on the list for involvement. Physically, I'm actually out in New York, so being remote is not a problem. We can get support from anyone, anywhere. In terms of building up a group of folks out in Washington to actually have events out there, I'm completely open to that. I think it would be fantastic. I'm happy to talk with you about how we might be able to make that happen. Obviously, you are currently person one that I know in the area, so it would take some building, but let's talk.
If I can jump in on that,
Please.
I work here at the Mines Foundation and travel frequently to Seattle to visit with alums. We have a ton of alums in the area who are in the aerospace industry. As you might imagine, a lot of them are at Boeing, but lots of different companies. There's definitely a couple of people at SpaceX and Blue Origin and a bunch of alums out there. I would love to chat about doing something that's kind of focused on that and can certainly brainstorm. Andrea, I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
There will definitely be an alumni gathering this summer focused on incoming freshmen, but we can talk about something
Right.
more industry focused.
And I usually try to get to that if I can, but half the time I'm out of town when it happens. But yeah, but it
I'll
would be
follow
fun.
up.
Okay, sounds good.
If I could answer one of the questions or a couple of questions here, I see one from Steve James asking about the differentiation of our program with CU Boulders. And, one of the things I talk to prospective families about and prospective students, and this will help those, I see that there's a high school group on aerospace industry hires across the board. It's mechanicals, electricals, computer science, aerospace. You don't need a degree in aerospace in order to go into the aerospace industry. I mean, Dan is the living proof of that, right? My first job was at NASA right out of undergrad with a mechanical engineering degree. So it's to appreciate that the industry is hiring across the board. We're not about to compete with CU Boulder's program. We're not going to offer an aerospace engineering degree, but what we're offering is the solid mechanical engineering degree with an emphasis in aerospace, and it's enough to get you started into an industry. And then if you want to advance let's say that there's programming or aerospace or anything of the sort, you can come, or space resources, to Angel's point, you can come back and get an advanced graduate degree in the areas that might better fine tune you for the industry that you're heading into. So we're not about to compete with CU Boulder, but we're giving our students an opportunity to land solidly into the aerospace field.
And let me add to what Christy was saying, because that there's no competition. I mean, CU Boulder is a big school in aerospace, but the demand for students from the aerospace industry in this state is so large that it's not going to make a dent to any program. I mean, I think the industry imports probably 50% of what they need, so there's still a long way to go. And in the area of grad school, in the area of space resources, this is a very unique niche area that Mines has a large advantage in the graduate program that doesn't exist anywhere around the world. So for CU, it's actually very useful to have the relationship that we have with them. We have collaborated. So anything that is related to space resources, they come to us, and we go to them for anything related to rockets and satellites and all that. So it's a very good relationship between the two schools.
Yeah, and I would just say, to my experience, having worked at Boeing in the commercial aerospace side and at Blue Origin, most of the engineers that I work with do not have aerospace degrees. Most of them are mechanical engineers, double E's. Boeing, I knew several civil engineers who were working in their stress analysis groups. So it's, they'll take good engineers as long as they have a reasonable skill set. So you really don't have to have the aerospace degree.
So a few more questions out there. One was from Corey Broom, says, I have a high school group here today. Here's a question. Are there any lectures available for students to view, or any resources / research for them to pursue?
And not let's see. I think Mines is working on a continuing education or something like this, where probably in the future we will have lectures for the general audience that they can look into that. Currently, we don't have that for high schoolers, but we're welcome for any tours that they would like to come, and we can give them an extended tour of our facilities plus an introduction to the different things that we do. I'm sure that Christy can say from her side they can, and I don't know if they can have any high school students that will be on like an information session of what's available at the Mines. Very useful.
Yeah, and I think Amanda has actually been active in having the AIAA group student chapter reach out and offer opportunities for high school groups to come on. It's really the best way to see what's going on and how our students are getting involved. Because other than our classes, our capstone projects are certainly fun, but those are unique experiences where our students present at the end of each semester. So December and April, or when our students are presenting, that's another space for high school students to come in and actually see what our students are working on. And it's not just aerospace that we highlight there, because we're a multidisciplinary group for our capstone program, but it certainly would see a diversity of projects from our senior engineers.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the event that Amanda is putting together. Be on the lookout in September. It's called the Pathfinder Conference, and there'll be high schoolers will be invited. She's already working with different high schools, so we'll make sure to connect you with Amanda so that you can come. It's a full day of being exposed to all sorts of activities that are happening in aerospace, not just us, but from other colleges around the state. So the Pathfinder Conference in September, be on the lookout for that.
And if you're looking for speakers from industry, I know a lot of our companies have outreach groups. So potentially, if you're looking for someone to come on campus and talk about aerospace, might be able to help you out there. If you're local, I don't know which high school we're talking about, but happy to try and find someone through our contacts as well.
Great. Another question was, do Mines capstone projects mentor or team up with high school teams?
We have not done that yet. It is we've had someone else mention it before. The challenges is how we partner, because the teams are fixed in the time and day that they're together in terms of the class. And that would essentially be the same time as the high schools, because our class meets from 8 to 11 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss and kind of brainstorm ideas how we can make that happen. I think that has been the limiting factor, is how would we physically make that happen when the teams mostly meet during a regular class time period.
Another good question. Are there any opportunities for prospective geology grad students to do research in space resource exploration that would also be relevant enough to conventional mining to be competitive in both after graduation?
Yes, indeed. We stress that, and in fact, probably 85% of our students in space resources are professionals already in the field with experience. So it's important to have that terrestrial knowledge of geology, of mining, of extraction before you start looking into space. So in our program, we definitely stress first, focus on the planet Earth, and then how that can be applied into identifying resources in space. So for geologists, geophysicists, definitely there's opportunities that you can get through a certificate from us if you just want to be exposed to this field while you're working in the regular geology, terrestrial geology. Those will be probably the best way to connect with us. Send me an email and we can talk more about your specific plans. And let me tie that to the next one. Let me talk about the Space Resources Roundtable. This is like the Woodstock of space resources. We've been organizing that conference for 23 years. These are people that come from all over the world, from the space exploration world, from mining, from oil and gas, from the military, from entrepreneurs. In June 6th to 9th, it's going to be at Colorado School of Mines in the Student Center. Probably we'll have around 200, 210 people on all talks related to space resources. So if you want to get an idea of the whole field, from prospecting to extraction to exploration and utilization, it's a great opportunity to get involved. June 6 to 9.
Any other questions? Well, that was fabulous. Certainly appreciate it. Great attendance for the talk. I think people will be able to come back to the recording and capture a lot more of the information, as you all provided such a good broad view of what's going on the campus. But it's very exciting, and I appreciate if anyone has questions and specific questions and can't find Angel or Christy or Dan's email, please send me a note and I'll make sure that you're able to get that. Please mark your calendars. Plan to join us for next month's Lunch Bunch on Thursday, June 15th, when we'll welcome John Howard, Senior Director of Mines Club and Intramural Sports Programs. With over 20 different sports programs, there's something for everyone. Learn about the breadth of programs offered that are conducive to wellness and personal development, and how you can get involved and support the team spirit at Mines. Visit weare.mines.edu or hover over the alumni tab and click on Lunch Bunch to register. We thank you all for joining us today, and thank our speakers again, Angel, Christy, and Dan. Great job. And I guess I'll leave it with go Ore Diggers. Have a great day.